let's look at these slides and try to find out where we, is any one of you interested in setting up your own business of research or doing research work somehow as an independent information professional? Any interest in that area? If
I
not,
I am potentially.
Yeah, you have potentially. Carl does. I know, Bonnie, you're obviously, it's not something that you would be doing as a business. I can tell, but if you have any interest in learning about research business or what type of businesses require research, it is more of a general sort. It is not specific for a niche business of research, but generally anyone setting up their own independent information delivery or information business, they would really benefit from these lectures, which won't be too lengthy, and it won't just continue as we did in module 2. This may last maybe 1 or 2 classes, just today and tomorrow, or even I would think that the number of questions that you would expect to get in CIRS out of this module would be far less than the other 3 modules, meaning that it would be probably about 10 questions in the exam coming from module 3. Module 2, which we did, you can expect maybe 40 questions. So this is by far the least number of questions that you can expect from this module, but it is interesting and it is a little bit of a change. Anyway, Ruth just sent me an email. She said she won't be able to make it today. So we can start with the business of research. If you find it too boring or if you have any questions, feel free to ask. We have plenty of time to cover the business of research. So let's just look at, and it's more descriptive. There is hardly anything practical to show, but I would like to bring your attention before we get to the slides. I have a book which I would like to share with you, something which you can consider as notes to what we are learning today. This book, I don't believe you got. This is how it looks. Have you, any one of you had seen this one before or used it before?
I haven't.
This one? You have, Carl?
No, I haven't.
No, I haven't.
Okay. Okay, no one has. So this says 2019 exam, and it is also being updated. However, most of the slides are coming from this book, and this is actually part of your training guide, which is originally this one that you have. So the thing is that this could be considered as separate notes. So think of them as notes from my side, okay? And I'll send this over to you. As far as the version 5.0, it is going to be coming either on Monday or Tuesday. So in between, I have a lot of work to do. Like tomorrow, I might not be able to take the class. We have 2 meetings tomorrow, and it is pre-release before we get the 5.0 out. So there could be a reason for me to not take the class tomorrow. So that means that I have to schedule it, reschedule it. So anyway, I'll do my best, but just to let you know, I'll give you this book with reference to what we are going to cover today. So, and in between, I will be shuffling between the slides and the content of this book here. And let's see which part I will be looking at. Okay, over here. Fine. So it's going to be a mix of slides and the book content. Okay, starting from business of research, current slide. This slide just gives you a definition of who is an internet research specialist. Just for your information, the internet research specialist is more or less a term or a job description or a job title, especially for you to know, Carl, that it is an upcoming or something which is newly discovered or newly recognized as a profession that requires a certain type of skill sets. So internet research specialist is, it's a terminology that's been used for a few years, but still very recent. It's not like market research or market analyst or research analyst, which is a terminology or a job description, not the job description, but job title rather, for so many people. And it is, those type of titles are well known. And the job description is already there in the books, or it is recognized by the governments, and especially in North America. But this terminology, internet research specialist, can be considered as an upgrade or more of a specialization in finding digitized information of the internet. So internet research specialist has a definition which keeps evolving, and every time we see something different. More important for me is the definition that is shown here, that says the internet researcher uses specialized skills in finding the most relevant and reliable web information pages pertinent to their research work. So important thing is that when we talk about research, we are talking about discovery of new things, improving on existing processes. If it is scientific process, then any improvement or discovery in that sort of area is considered to be an outcome of the research and the purpose for the research. But when it comes to internet research, we are being very specific about finding free information of the internet. Or also, as a researcher, you are supposed to be filtering out irrelevant and considering only relevant. What is relevant and what is authentic is again a question which can be answered by a research specialist if they know exactly how to verify that information source. Verification of information floating around on the internet is a very tough task, and a lot of times it requires some sort of a disclaimer that says that our reliance is based on these sources of information. And even the client where you are delivering the work would be a little bit skeptical unless you have a good reference or a citation. As in the library sciences, you know that everything that is available in the print format, or is available as research paper, are very thoroughly vetted, and they're pretty much verified. But on the internet, verification might be a little difficult. But bottom line is, internet research is important for so many other reasons, apart from just doing research work or serious research work of academic nature or scientific nature. You are collecting social media information, you're doing product searches, you're doing so many different types of research, which may not be as specific as the academics do, or as the scientists do, or used for particularly clinical research. But social science has really used it extensively, where one of the ideas that required a participation of a group of people picked up from a certain type of sample, or the sample is created based on certain criteria. When it comes to collection of samples, internet is really come in very handy for social experiments, and for discovering people's murmurs, or the trends and things of that nature. So definitely internet researcher has now a good future and a permanent place. For as long as internet is there, they would require some sort of a structured way of learning and defining the internet research as a skill. So in the light of what I've explained to you on the background, for this definition is the facts that I just stated. Looking at the business of research, we would look at three different slides that will allow us to discover the requirements of the market, the requirements of the potential client, and how you as an independent researcher should fit in or make your presence known, or for whatever reasons you want to improve or express yourself or package your businesses. That is what we will discover. First of all, let's start with someone who is planning to, get their own business started as an independent information specialist or independent researcher, or even the internet research specialist. So this is the guy who is planning to start his business. And for now, I would like to point out at all these, you could say, markers, or these headings or captions, which gives you an idea of what may be required before you can start your own business. One thing is that expert subject knowledge is extremely important. So for someone to get into the type of research business that is going to complement the profession you qualifications you have, would really help in selecting a niche area where you could say that you have certain expertise and a background. That knowledge could be in, let's say, legal research, it could be market research, it could be financial research, and so on. And then there is another occupation these days that we call a generalist. As a researcher, sometimes people call them virtual assistant. So you have to really present yourself or assume a sort of an expertise in either knowledge area or offer packages as a generalist, or you can have a combination of both. But just because, and this is coming from our own experience also, so I will talk about how we are able to look at some of the concerns of our clients when they are getting ready to outsource the research to our association. What are their concerns? And based on their concerns, we create packages and we sort of deliver things, or present our expertise based on our past experiences we've had with clients or similar in the similar type of industry. That really helps, and that sort of becomes a continuous source of revenue and work for us. So if we are talking about a generalist, we definitely are going to look at two aspects of how we should package our services. So as a journalist, you could be collecting leads, you can be doing product analysis, you can be doing price analysis, something which is more general, something which people think that requires a lot of labor work. And mostly when you present yourself as a generalist or a virtual assistant, you are not looking at a very highly paid job, or it could be a contract, depending on where you are. If you are somewhere offshore, then you're competing with, there would be a price war, and you don't get paid as much because competition is offering far too low price, and so on. So as a generalist, this is where you get into this zone where you have to make a decision whether you go for the expertise level of service or just as a journalist. So this is the placement, or this is the positioning, you could say, for the business you want to do. And then you, as an internet researcher, would have to know where you can find information. Just doing searches is not going to give you the right direction to go and find some valuable information that's actually living inside of the deep web, or where you need subscription, or if there's a quality data or a data that is collected through a lot of effort by someone that obviously has a value to it, and therefore you should know where to get it, who are the more reliable sources, and so on. So those highways of information are covered somewhat in another chapter, which we will be giving you the notes on. I think it is Internet Information Sourcing and Challenges. This is 5.0.1. So we'll give you this booklet, which you can use as a reference, because CIRS is a course that is covering so many different areas, and some of the chapters sort of are, sort of complement each other from one module to another. It doesn't mean that the second module may not have an impact or wouldn't really be connected with module 3. So if you go through module 1, 2, 3, and 4, all 4 of them, you will find a very close connection and a sort of coherent between their utilization. And together, when you look at the broader picture, you would see that you have pieces of information that are actually connected with each other. So when we are talking about where to search for information on the internet, it would take you to module 2, and in module 2 you have another set of documents or another chapter, which by the way is also part of your training manual, except that we have now actually separated it into smaller booklets, which I just showed you. So like I said, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Monday, Tuesday, somewhere around those days, you should be getting the 5.0. So anyway, this part where it says where to search for information on the internet means your ability to use specialized search engines in specific situations, tools and utilities that you can think of, which would make it easy for you to find in certain information. And then, of course, which databases to access, whether to, subscribe to LexisNexis or not. Is there a portal or a place where you can get certain type of information which specializes in something? Social media contacts, social media portals where you can find the information. So what, as a proficient researcher, someone who is in the business of research, what you do is you organize your links. You have to be extremely well organized to do this kind of business, because sources are very hard to find, and once you find them, you have to organize them and label them and put them in under some topics, put them in a folder properly, collect all the bookmarks, and then cross-reference those bookmarks to those folders, or somehow there are several softwares also that does that kind of organization, where links and your bookmarks are organized. Then how to search for relevant and reliable information means that you will verify information authenticity, origin of that information. You should be able to see how that information can be considered either a primary information or a secondary information or a tertiary information. So there could be a distinction based on how close you are to the actual source of that information, or if that information is something like personalized diary, that is first-hand information, interviews, first-hand information, some collection of data by reliable and you could say a company of integrity that is collecting that data, so that for a fact that you can have some sort of confidence in those numbers that you're getting from them. So relevancy and reliability, your ability to verify. Anytime you are delivering a research project or you are negotiating with the client is going to ask you, where would you get your resources? You can't say that I'm not going to disclose that, that's personal, that source I cannot disclose. You have to disclose it. Then you have to tell them what type, is it a primary information or a secondary information? Is it the type of information that, and then how would you be verifying that information? So that the client is assured that anytime you are delivering a report, the numbers, the charts, the type of conclusion that is derived, the cross references to certain set of information could be relied upon, so that the management would make a decision without having to worry about the sources of information. So it is most important, and therefore you have to, while you're packaging your services or presenting it, some of the bullet points that you have to put either on your website or part of your brochure or something that tells what are some of the considerations you keep in mind as for the client, as someone who's delivering research services. You have to mention all these things. And pretty much people who get into this business don't pay attention to it, and therefore it's not a very these elements, all that we are discussing today, are important for you to present to the client, okay, for giving them reassurance that you are the right person for the job. How to identify fakes and biased information. Another aspect of doing research could be investigative research, or it may not be the direct purpose of your research, but indirectly this research you are delivering might be required by a client that is using it in the court of law, or it is being used for verifying facts and so on. So you should have a policy or softwares or subscription or anything that says that you have the ability to first of all verify that fake or cross check it somewhere, and there are some methods and methodology in place for you to do that. Second is, are you using any softwares, any tools, or do you have the ability to verify authenticity of images, video clips, and so on. So that part originally this is extracted from those type of services that involve online investigations or investigative research, and therefore this may be an important aspect if somehow you have the ability to do these or give assurance to the client that you are capable of delivering facts and can separate fakes. You should be able to get a lot of business, because this is the area where we find that we are getting a lot of I guess you could say that offers or lot of proposals, uh, asking for proposals from us to do verifications and do background checks, not just the regular background checks, but skip tracing kind of situation where you are trying to track someone. So this area is very hot these days. How to collect, and we have a course I mentioned yesterday that's coming up. How to collect, tabulate, organize, analyze, and present information. So if you have a background that says that you have been able to deliver certain reports and present it in a more methodical way, in consideration of the type of standardized, you can say, methods and methodology that is involved in conventional research work. Because remember, any conventional research work has certain rules which are formed over many years, and today they have become like you can even call it a legacy procedures. But those procedures are extremely important, first of all for understanding the terminology, second communicating with other research specialists, number three is following the process, the baseline or basic processes, which is considered by the research organizations or people who teach research. They have approved those procedures, and there is a philosophy behind it, which you know of, and all those kind of considerations. So there is a bit of information that is covered in module 2, And I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. Maybe it's in this module. Traditional research methods, planning, data collection, and analytics. This is what I'm talking about. So these notes that you will get, one of the booklets would cover that area which I just mentioned to you. And this is what I'm talking about over here. It says how to collect, tabulate, organize, analyze, and present information. How to write research reports and derive inferences and conclusions. So one of the important aspects of your ability to deliver successfully the research reports will depend on how well you're able to write that report, how much of it is relevant to the type of problem in your research that is mentioned, or the scope of the research that is mentioned by the client. So some of the sample reports, research reports, or standards you're following could help and go a long way. So you have to know what are, and by the way, we have research reports as samplers or samples that you may want to look at as a reference, or consider it as a as a as an annexure or addendum of some sort. Let me show you where it's at, and it is in this book. But just quickly, I'm going to give you an idea what I'm talking about. Like over here, this is a request for proposal. It is one of the documents that that gets initiated from the potential client. It is asking, it's a request for proposal, meaning that they're going to define the scope of the project, perhaps ask you to give more detail about your company, about your, the business background, and so on. So this is the request, the company background, research project goals, and all that is mentioned in this one. And then there is a second type of research report, or not the report, I'm sorry, you can, well, let's just not mix it up. Let me just call these the documents which are involved in getting your contract, or successfully closing a contract with a potential client. So request for proposal comes first. You should be able to understand this document. Then comes your research proposal. So the way you're going to write your proposal in response to the RFP is what is shown here as an example. Like in this one, it is a proposal for a market research, right? And you are responding as a research specialist to the request of a client. So this is what you're going to cover, all these areas. You're going to define the quantitative methods, the qualitative methods, the data collection methods, and so on. So this is all laid out as a reference for you to look at and understand how these would play a part in negotiating your deals, or going further with the client before you close the contract. So these type of documents are important for you to understand, right, and somehow be able to satisfy your client that you have that ability, and you will produce something similar. Or maybe there is a white paper which you can attach, which effectively which can replace your showing the ability for understanding a situation or a problem, certain area of research. Anyway, then we've got then ability to conduct online investigative research work. When we talk about online investigative research, it's a very broad term. And supposing you have done your CIRS and someone is asking you to do some sort of investigation or a background check on someone. It could be an insurance company, it could be a fraud, someone is investigating anything that is of investigative nature. Then your offering within the area of online investigation requires or entails that you have at least the ability to collect evidence that can be presented in the court of law, or you should be able to capture digitized version of that information so that it is explicit enough and it is complete enough that it can be admissible in the court. What are some of the elements that, so all those come into play. So your ability to conduct online investigative research. Today, I feel that the research work cannot just be restricted to just finding pieces of information alone, but there is always some sort of an investigative aspect to any type of research. Uh, Not necessarily, just doing, detective work. So I feel that CIRS will eventually will head in the direction where it will also include certain type of investigative type of research courses in it eventually, because this and CIRS will go hand in hand. Familiarization of important cyber laws and ethical issues. The legal part is absolutely very, very important, starting with, of course, understanding what is plagiarism and what would avoid the plagiarism if you are using someone's work as a derivative work, or if there is GNU, or you could say a license available for you to use that type of work, then how much of the work you can or you're allowed to use, and there are conditions to it, whether or not the use of that information which you are building your work on, or you're using the exact same piece of information, not calling it a plagiarism, but let's say something which is available for public use, has certain restrictions, like you can't use it for commercial reasons, you can only use it for educational purposes, you could use it as a reference only, and that kind of restrictions are there on those. And then of course there is a copyright issue, there's intellectual property issue. Intellectual property can involve trademarks, it can be copyrights, which has to do with the written work, and then there could be what is the, and there could be what else, patents could be another IP that you should be concerned about. If you are describing something, writing about something, or doing some research on certain type of patented products, which could be a violation of those patent laws, then you have to be careful about that. So we will learn in internet laws and ethics, we will learn about privacy issues, we will learn about, and the privacy issue in the sense of how much of the work or how much of the information you can use in your writings, in in your findings, in your research generally. If it is a human subject, then what type of, and how would you pose questions if it is a human subject, what is the age limits and so on. So these laws, which are basic laws that any researcher should understand and have familiarization with, we will discuss in the last two classes, whichever they may be. We will be finishing up law and ethics. Sound knowledge of conventional research methods and methodology, and the booklet I showed you, that booklet you're going to use. Knowledge of specialized online search tools and search engines and things like that. For that, I've given you the book already. It sort of organizes the type of specialized search engines under headings. It could be subject headings, topic headings, the type of search they do. So they're sort of organized in a way that it makes it easy for you to know which type of specialized search engines I'm talking about. It is covering all those different types of search engines. By the way, we have the most extensive list, which gets updated every quarter. So the ones that you got will help you in choosing or discovering certain type of searches that you would rather do through specialized search engines. How to perform precision search and search query operator. This is what we've been doing all along. Next is what are my research outsourced? This is a client looking for the research specialist. What could be some of the concerns of the clients, and what are the clients normally looking for in finding out who to select for doing their outsourced research work as a contractor. So these are some of the things we will be discussing. And the third and the last one is, how do I get online research work? What are the different ways through which we should be able to get some contractual work? So this one we are going to discuss also. And let me check. All you have to do is just follow my lead in preparing for the exams, so that I can be sure that you should be able to pass the CIRS. And the practice exams will be delivered to you after we get done with the course, because if we give it to you before, a lot of people start asking questions, and it sort of becomes difficult for us to answer them before time, or they could be questions that we don't need to get into or get involved with unless and until we finish up the entire course. So that is the reason we give the practice exam after the course. And once you get the practice exams and you are ready to attempt final exams, or you ask for the final exams, we'll send it to you by your request. The reason is that you have 90 days period to attempt that. And if we release it earlier, the term would expire in 90 days, and that probably would not be something that you need for us to occupy, especially the days that we are doing practice exams. So to make sure that the 90-day period is to your advantage, the entire period itself, we would just wait for you to say, okay, I need that voucher. And I would, and then there is another condition that you have to ask for it within 30 days after we have finished up the course. So you know, when you're ready, just let me know. I'll send you the final exams. Final exams are the ones that would be a simulation, or would, well, actually it is exactly based on the same pattern as you would see in the practice exam, so that you are comfortable enough while you're doing your practice questions, you would find it really easy to attempt your final exams. So that's how we have organized the CIRS exam part. And when you get the 5.0 version, don't get confused that, you know, there could be questions coming from 5.0. What should we read, version 4.0 or 5.0? So the way that I have created all these slides and the way I've taught you the course, it is covering everything that is going to be there in 5.0 as well as in 4.0. So you are not going to miss that part, or at least have the assurance that whatever we have learned through the slides is going to be part of your exam, irrespective of whether it's 5.0 or 4.0. And then the practice exam will also reveal to you the facts, and those practice exams are pretty much as close to the real exam questions as you can get. So you know, all this exercise and all these steps, if you follow, you should be able to pass that exam, and you can give the final exam in you know, according to the modules. Like, you don't have to give the exam for all 4 modules at once. You can just give one exam at a time. So you can do one module, pass that, do the second module, and supposing you pass the first module, you get a certificate of participation. Second module, certificate of participation. So you can actually get 4 certificates of participation, but that's not a CIRS. But once you have successfully completed all 4 of them, you would be getting a certification from us that is verifiable, and it is going to put you in the directory of members, or you would get an automatic membership as a certified member if you pass the CIRS exam. And of course, there are other benefits as well. So that's about as much as you need to know right now. And if there's any other questions with relation to exams or anything to do with what we discussed, you can ask me.
Naveed, one question.
Yes.
Do you know the course that we're doing now? How prepared will we be for the exam, or would you advise once we've done the sort of all the sessions with you, would you then say get your head down and study for another 2 or 3 weeks before taking the exams? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Thing is that if you start attempting the practice exams, you probably need not worry too much about going through the entire books or giving it 3 weeks. In my personal opinion, as soon as we get done with the course itself and you start attempting the questions, let's suppose you start with the practice exam for module 2. You can actually attempt it right away, because whatever we have learned is still sticking in your minds and it is recent. So you have that that clarity, and you could actually right away attempt the questions. And after you've attempted those practice exams and you are scoring really well in those exams, because that exam will also keep changing the questions. There is the question bank which has more questions than you would expect to see, or that would be part of the exam. So if there is 100 questions that belong to module 2, you would as a practice would attempt maybe 20 questions at a time, and then those questions will keep rotating and it'll keep picking up new questions from that bank. So if you practice enough and you feel that you're scoring really high, you could immediately go for your final exam and give exam for that particular module. So that again, it is the freshness of the questions and the because it's very recent, it'll stay with you and you will find it easy to pass the exam. So you can right away go and attempt that exam, and you get 3 attempts for individual modules. So if you're not successful in the first attempt, try it in the second attempt. You can even try it in the third attempt, and you will pass for sure, because I know that third time people usually pass the exam. Most difficult is the module 2. The easiest one is what we are discussing right now, module 3. Module 1 would be something that people usually, that has to do with networks and internet technology. But for that, I am going to give you the notes, just the way I gave you the notes for basic search. I'll give you for advanced search. I'll give it to you for the business of research and also for the law. So when I give you those booklets, you can use them as a reference rather than go through the entire book, because that would become too much of reading for you. So my suggestion is, in the end, the training guide would remain with you as a reference that you can keep for your future use. But for immediate use to pass the exam, my notes would help you a great deal, and the practice exam will give you an idea at that time where you would like to evaluate on your own whether or not you can pass that exam.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Let's just look at the client side. I think this is an interesting part. I feel that a lot of people don't understand what the client's expectation is when it comes to research work, and some of the areas that you want to be more concerned about, or let's say this person who is a potential client is going to look at all these headings that we will be discussing. First, starting from the left, what is the experience in industry or subject knowledge? The client's expectation usually is that you have done quite a few researches before and they are not the first ones, or they are not experimenting with you. So that sort of experience or a background or a reference would really go a long way. Even if you're coming from an industry that you have served as a professional, that would be sufficient. You don't really need to have the experience of research itself. But supposing you're an engineer who has a niche knowledge about certain type of products or whatever it may be, then that could be sufficient. So that knowledge and experience again is what is going to be important. And I'm talking about like long-term contracts or contracts which the client is very concerned about as far as deliverables and your knowledge and so on. And the second aspect is what are the previous work references. So they're going to search around and see if you have a company, a small business or a private business of some sort. They're going to check on the internet to see if someone has left any comments, or there is some information about you on the internet. So they do a lot of Googling and they do a lot of search online and try to find out about you. So your digital presence, your ability to present yourself really well online, your association with social media accounts, how well you're set over there. Everybody wants to look at comments, ratings, and things that involve third party, you could say, opinions, or third party, giving you the ranking of some sort. That would really be helpful if you're getting positive ranking, or if even in sites like LinkedIn, you have a presence there and people has vouched for you as having certain type of skill sets, that would be looked at. So those references are important. Can we trust giving business information? This is the major part, because anytime the contract is signed, even though there is non-circumvent and non-disclosure and non-compete agreements, but the part where the actual trust gets developed is based on your relationship, how long you've had that relationship, your reputation in the business, or your association with professional organizations, and things of that sort. So, there are certain type of informations that help the client to build that trust. The reason for the type of trust that client needs from you is not just about the trust on you getting the research done more, you could say, professionally, but the concern is about whether or not the research that you are doing would end up getting in the hands of your competition, their competition, that is. And for research purposes, a lot of times the client has to give internal information or some other type of information which may be considered as intellectual property or a business secret. So that gets exchanged when you're doing research. So that trust level will not depend on the contract itself only, but also based on the factors I just mentioned to you. So trust is important. Can we count on information and data reliability gathering for research? A lot of people, just to fill in the numbers, they are very sloppy about getting a sample or building a sample, or a lot of marketing companies or research companies, small companies especially, they have a network of people that are more like working together indirectly, yet when you give those samples to those people, they know what to write, they're dictated or they're given instructions, or they are not the real sample, or they're not exactly the kind of the kind of people that you would consider trustworthy. So there could be several reasons for figuring out whether the resource or the sources that you are using to gather that information is coming from someone as a primary set of information and from the correct source. Then we have what is the business background, size, expertise, client base. a lot of people who are seriously looking at it as a business that they want to start ask this question, and they say that we are a small company, or they say that I'm just one individual. How am I going to propose something to a client that could be a big corporation, knowing that I'm a very small size business? So how do I create that sort of impact which can satisfy the client? So definitely, I mean, it is something that everybody considered, like size means that it could be, how many partners you have if it is a business, if those partners are qualified enough, or if you are affiliated with other research companies, or the size would also mean that if you've done any large projects, um, and if at any time the size of the sample has to grow, or if you have to gather more information and more human resources involved, do you have access to ready resource of knowledge professionals that you can gather to do that? Because a lot of researches are seasonal, and some of the researches grow because of certain events or certain type of
Yeah, I'm on the class again. Oh, I'm sorry.
no problem. So the expertise, client base, and so on. So what are the business memberships with trade organizations, professions? Of course, that is logical. They just the client wants to be sure that whatever practice you're doing is a licensed practice, and if that license is regulated or the profession is regulated by some professional bodies. So that could be an important factor. Who are business partners, collaborators, affiliates, franchisees, franchisors, and so on? What is the business digital footprint? Yeah, like your presence in social media, your presence in popular websites. Are you contributing somewhat to the profession through some article writing, or contributing in journals, or there is something that talks about you as a professional, that they can find online? So that is all digital footprints. How do the business website appear in look and feel? First thing that you have to do even before you start the business is set up your website, and that website has to have all those pieces of information which are considered important for the purposes of gaining some trust, and having enough information to know where you're coming from, what type of packaging you have for the services you're delivering, if there are people or in your management or your partners, their profile should be there. So all the basic elements should be there, and enough information that would relay the reliability of your business somehow. So those websites are extremely important. Are there any third-party opinions, polls? Of course, they're going to check your reputation. They would want to know if there is some rating done on you, or if there is any grievances that's reported for your business or yourself. There are several websites that people subscribe to, and a lot of them they can just have access to as a public information. So all this is going to come into play. Are there any court cases or ongoing litigation against the business? This is an important fact which a lot of times um, uh, researchers are sort of involved in litigations. Okay, let's put it this way. That is a separate part, which is not to do. This part of court cases that I'm talking about has to do with litigation against a researcher or against the business of a researcher, so that the client would know that the risk factor, if there is a risk factor for the company folding, very high, and if there is any long-term contracts or something that is an ongoing investigation, online work, they want to make sure that the company won't fold or the business won't close, and things of that nature. So the risk assessment for the business who is looking for outsourced research contracts would surely do an investigation and do background check. Then the third element, like how do I get online research work? Establish research niche area. I mean, these are just some of these, unless they're important, we'll just read through. Layout, online presence, okay. Build comprehensive business plan, obtain certification, register with professional organization. Okay, so all these are there, but what is important is the type of contract. So familiarize with typical outsourced work. If you are an independent research specialist, you should know that you are not occupied all throughout the year. Some of the contracts are ongoing, but they may not be enough to generate the cash flow you require. There could be certain type of work that slows down, and it is seasonal during the year. So keeping that in mind, you should also have a backup which says that you are taking some research work from outsourcing platform like Upwork, for instance, where you could just place your profile and put your credentials there. And also there are other clients or potential clients that are looking to hire outsource help or outsource contractors. They don't pay well, but during the lean times it comes in handy. So make sure that you are familiar with those platforms that will sustain you financially in this kind of business. Temp contracts, sites like Ask Wonder, Research Gates, these people are hiring throughout the year and they pay you per research. So if you are with Ask Wonder, and by the way, companies like Ask Wonder and Research Gate, they hire everybody who gets CIRS. So I haven't had anyone who is a CIRS who didn't get hired by these companies. Okay, and what they do is they do research on demand, short research, elaborate research, whatever the nature of the research is, even to answer questions. They hire people and they pay them by the nature of the contract, which is short term, and then they have another contract which is regular contract. So if you're a CRS, they give you regular contract where you can tell them how many hours you want to work and they'll pay you accordingly. So in lean times, this would help. Place services with job sites and virtual assistant online databases, fine. There are several sites that are hiring or putting advertising for virtual assistants and all that. Start with low pay outsourcing, consider contracting and subcontracting with established businesses. So no big deal, this slide is not as important. Basic operational costs to start up a business, you can look it up. Unless you have a question with any of this, you can ask. Otherwise, just to start a business, a small or as an individual, if you getting on the web for the first time, your cost should be under $500 to start a business. But most important is that you should have all the softwares and tools available. You should have software that allows you to organize your work. You should have social media accounts and domain name and so on and so forth. So it's not important for me. This slide is purpose of any professional research. This is a typical exam question. So and this comes in the exam and it comes like on regular basis. So I don't know what slide number it is, but what is the purpose of any professional research? Just memorize or just understand these 9 points. Pretty much explained, and it is actually, I don't see anything that I have to talk about on this slide. Put forth solutions to a problem to collect it and convert it. Okay, what skills you require? Typical exam question, and it's a boring question, like what type of skills are required for a modern internet research. So they will ask what are soft skills and what are technical skills, or what could be the most important technical skills. So data collection, data analysis and analytics is very important. If you're doing research work, no matter what type of research you're doing, if it requires for you to create a research report of sorts, or if it requires for you to do some, deep down extensive research and do come up with inferences or conclusions, then you get paid a lot more than lot more than if you are just hired to collect the information or just to collect raw data. That is, labor intensive, yet it doesn't pay too much. So your ability for data analysis and doing analytics is very important if you are dealing with a project that requires for you to produce results or analyze it according to your ability and come up with some conclusions. So analysis and analytics, both of these words can be interchanged. However, analysis is a little bit different from analytics. And you must have looked and found job descriptions that says product analyst, data analyst, and financial analyst, and so many different analysts. So what does the analyst mean? And analyst is a combination. Analysis is a process, analytics or analysis and analytics is a process. So let's not worry about what they actually mean, because nobody's asking for definition. But from the job description, you can relate to the type of work these people do in different specialized areas, finances, even insurance, actuarians, and all those people, they do analysis of some sort. So analysis techniques and analytics these days involve softwares which actually do a lot of things for you. Like you can just put raw data in it and it will come up with beautiful charts. It creates data visualization, it creates relationships, it builds qualitative analysis of its own, or converts qualitative analysis into quantitative analysis by giving it certain values, which obviously are programmed inside of those software. So, familiarization with all those is important. So your technical skills is important, computer skill, online research skills, soft skills. So I wouldn't want to discuss that. It's not all that difficult to understand. Which instrument, where to find it? Okay, this part is important. So when we are talking about research in business, you see, there are two aspects to this module that we will be exploring. One is research in business and the other one is business of research. When we say research in business, it simply means that there could be a possibility for companies that are actually doing certain type of research work in order to do product analysis, or the product manager would be responsible for doing competitive analysis, collecting business intelligence, sourcing, the supplies or the parts, whatever they need to source it. They would do it, with a lot of research to find the right suppliers, right manufacturers, and so on. So research keeps going on in different departments of an organization. Even the financial analyst would do some sort of research. They would definitely be looking at numbers that they bring from the industry trends or their competition, and so on. So all those sort of analysis or analytics that get done inside of organization produce internal research reports. And while they're producing internal research, there are certain aspects of research which requires outside help. And for those managers or those responsible for doing research may request that the organization or the management hires an outside help or a research specialist that would find certain type of information. Most important is to find a third-party researcher that would have a non-biased approach to finding facts and figures. Especially of importance in this situation are the shareholders or banks or other investors or interested parties that require a third eye to give them certain types of facts and figures away from just the management reports. So they might just propose that you or the organization hires outside help. So when this type of situations happen, a researcher should be ready to offer a help which is specific to certain type of search reports. And those research reports, even though they are internally used, but the data collected or the information flow is from outside, okay, from third parties or from other facts that they gather. And when that happens, we need to have an understanding as a researcher of the nature of information, the type of reports that may require their assistance, so they can create a package, or they can blend a package that fits in to the needs of the clients, because the client or the organization may be looking for researchers or outside help. And while you are offering packages which are typically not geared towards providing information for a particular industry, let's say, then you may be ignored by them. So you have to connect it from both ends. You have to look at when the organizations internally require outside help, what could that help be, or what sort of reports require a certain type of research. So this is the connection that we make, or you should make as a researcher. And this is the reason we are describing the type of data or information that could be internal and external. Internal reports, here what it means is, and I'm sure you must have read this, which information to find, where to find it on the internet, moreover, how to build search queries. So this is, a general statement. But specifically, when it comes to which information to find, we are going to connect the dots with the 4 of these elements that may come into play when we are dealing with internal requirements and external requirements of organization. So internal reports and external reports here simply means that internal ones are the ones that requires data collection from inside, like in production, like in sales targets, and things of that sort. So, but they are generated internally. External reporting is when third parties authorize research, like your shareholders, investors, and so on. Then information and data required by shareholders, of course, I think this blends into external reporting. Then job description and their responsibilities for business reports, data requirements. So if there is a job description that involves doing research, and a lot of those people who are responsible for the department or manage a department in organization, they are given the task, or they are supposed to be having some intelligence or some data that would involve comparative analysis or comparative analysis, like SWOT analysis, which I will tell you what that is. And SWOT analysis, SWOT, which means strengths, opportunities, as the strengths, weakness, opportunities, WOT, and threats. So these 4 elements required for those people that have a job description that says that they have to know the pulse of the industry or have access to that sort of information, require an outside help. And with that job description, you would know what type of people to connect with, so that if you are trying to propose some sort of research packages as an independent research, you know who to go to. Like, you can't go to a manager who is not a decision maker. You have to go to the VP of that department, and so on. So these job descriptions would have to have an impact on who you would connect with to offer your services. Business reports and information reporting. So business reports, you should know what are the typical type of business reports, and some information reporting, which means that the method in which you're going to deliver your reports as research reports, I guess. So information reporting is a research report. Business reports is obviously the specialized reports that I will discuss with you on this list. So when it comes to business reports, we are talking about market research reports, industry trends, social media presence, consumer preferences, SWOT analysis, as just told you about, financial accounts and audit reports, budgets and costs. So all these reportings require, some of them are really a collection of information from outside, like market research reports, utilize a lot of external help or outsourced help from research analysts. Market share comparative analysis requires intelligence of collecting the information from the competitors. So if an organization is seeking information from competitors directly, they may not be able to get it. And then in that situation, they would request a third party outsider to do it for them, because, you know, that sort of makes it easy. Feasibility reports, when you are trying to apply for a loan from the banks, they want third party opinions, they want audited reports. Feasibility is reports also involved a project feasibility, where you are asking the bank to invest the money in or borrow the money from the banks. So how feasible the project is requires industry review, you know, projections, the risks involved, and so on and so forth, that makes that project feasible or non-feasible. Mostly feasible, obviously, so you have to collect all those facts, and that requires a third-party data collection. Shareholder reports, business plans, business valuations, assets valuations, and so on, involves the help of research, outside researchers. And the reason we are discussing this, again, I'm telling you, is because these are opportunities which a lot of people, a lot of researchers miss out, only because they think that it or these sort of reporting or these sorts of information is more of internal nature for organization, when the fact is that if you ask the right people in that organization for giving you, for you to look for the research projects, you would be able to get some traction and not miss out these opportunities. And these are considered, as I said, the internal, what is it? There was a name I used. It's not just management reports and business reports. These are the kind of reports that require a lot of assistance from outside. You know, there could be a question in the exam. I'm not sure, I'll have to look it up. But when you have a list like this, the question would be posed like, can an independent information specialist get any opportunity for work from an organization, or would they be able to help in generating internal or external reports? Answer yes or no. And then the most they will ask is reports that are used in the business. So is SWOT analysis a research report? Yes or no, things like that. So, and because see these slides, I can assure you that whatever the questions are coming from these slides, or at least 90% coming from these slides. Examples of jobs that use data for research reports: senior business executives, product managers, product design engineers, product designers, financial and accounting related jobs, market. So it's giving you, and then there are, if it's a big enough organization or the business of the organization involves analysis, like financial analysis or you know, data analysis, then you would find that people with these job descriptions are already working in there. So if you see any of these, like business analyst, cost analyst, financial analyst, you probably won't get any work from that organization, because they are, with the word analyst in the job description, they already have someone or a department or people that are supposed to be collecting information just the way you would as a researcher. So whenever you see analyst, financial, so we normally, you well, I wouldn't say you wouldn't get any job or any work, but I'm just giving you an idea as someone who would find it little bit more difficult to get any sort of work when you have an organization having any of these people working inside. SWOT analysis would be, as I mentioned, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. So the type of information that you need to collect would involve, comparative analysis, business intelligence collection, or price analysis, or you can say feature analysis between products, compare one product with another, and so on and so forth. So for you to find this question in the exam would be high, because this is more like a pet question. It keeps coming in whatever form it comes. Mostly it is to do with giving a definition or sort of giving details of this acronym that is used. So S is for strength of your your strength. Then you have to find your weaknesses with W, and O is opportunities that you would get, and the threats that are there for you, or as a business, the threat you have with your competition. So SWOT analysis sort of collects the information, and this chart gives you an idea as to what is the internal type of information, what is the external origin of information. In opportunities and in strengths, what do you collect? Weakness, as an example, it is shown here. So if you want, you can sort of read through this, but more or less it is just the acronym they need you to give an answer for. What is the meaning of strength, opportunities, threats, weakness? Here is a list of management reports, which is what you should be familiar with if you are offering your services to companies that effectively are large enough that they produce a lot of management reporting. These days, management reports are generated by the computers because all the databases are sort of connected, and they create a relationship between data, and also to have a knowledge of what are the names of these typical reports we call management reports that are prepared inside of organization, not outside. But at the same time, the extent of what type of data is collected from outside source or by hiring outside researcher is obviously something that you should have a knowledge about. Like campaign effectiveness report, what does that mean? You can Google it and find out. Our objective today, and even for the reason of exam, they're not going to ask you what is the meaning of each one of these reports. These are not even defined in the book. What this chart is telling you is the different types of management reports that are there. At least what you could do is sort of with the wordings themselves assume or figure out what type of data would be involved. And if you know or if you have an idea of what type of data could be used, perhaps you can put it in the mix of your service offerings, or put it as a package that you can help with, let's say, comparative analysis. You can do brand research. You could, so these words are very catchy and everybody understands in the industry. So if you're a researcher and you know what these reports are about, and you know the naming or the convention of how these reports are given the meaning by the wordings it uses, you should be able to put it in your offerings. So brand research is very catchy, and it is a type of report that is created internally, but it requires assistance from outside. So you're going to mark some of these reports. Out of all that you're seeing here, let's say under the heading of marketing and sales, not all of them would require external data or external help. For instance, website traffic, source, and demographics. These are the softwares that are built into the website, and they do auto analysis, and internally this information is available. And advertising campaign reports, probably your expertise are not involved here, but anything to do with marketing. Consumer insights has to do with um, you know industry research. So you can offer consumer insight reports that you can create. So if you're familiar with these reports and you know what the structure of these typical reports are like, you should be comfortable to offer it to your clients, knowing what is involved in this. Similarly, company research reports, the type of research reports that involves company research exclusively or a business research, you can say. There could be reports on equity valuation reports, share valuation reports. So share valuation reports are usually vouched for or audited by audit companies or forensic companies, and also the facts and figures that are collected can be verified or can be generated by the research specialist or independent researcher. So it is a mix of things, and there are several reports here that could be internal, like costs and budgets. You won't have anything to do with it, so you're not going to put it as an offer for you for bringing any sort of data or collection of information, because costs and budgets are internal, and so on. So this is just a chart showing you the naming of the reports, which are typical reports, under what heading they fall, and for you to have a knowledge about these, so you can put it together as an offering to organizations. um, Tomorrow we want to do costing. How do you do costs for the projects? What are the different methods of pricing your services? And then what are the outside resources that you can use to get the work as an independent research specialist? What are those areas, what are those venues and those platforms that are available online? So virtual outsourcing portals, they are listed here. We'll talk about that, the process of getting work through. Or how many of you know about Upwork, for instance, as a platform that
I know.
gives.
Yeah. I know that.
So
I've never
I know
heard of
that.
it.
Wait,
Mustafa
what?
knows.
Can you repeat what
And
it's
we
called?
don't.
Upwork, yeah, I know about.
Oh, no, I don't.
Well,
Me
two
neither.
types of people go to Upwork a lot. One that are looking to hire people at very low cost, because it is more to do with outsourcing it to cheaper labor. And if you don't have a lot of budget for it, you can find some really good professional people who would be willing to, work on your project at a very low cost point. And then the other thing is that some people who are just trying to get enough projects that at slow times, or if the business is too slow, they would offer services for less price. They would put themselves out there on Upwork. So it is a very important platform for a lot of people, and in a lot of ways it is very helpful. But this is just one example of getting some sort of work by using the outsourcing platforms like Upwork. And then and then there are others that you probably know of or don't know of, where is it? There is platforms like opinion platforms, uh, and you'd be surprised actually to know. Not many of you would be interested. People create ghost accounts when they start off a website for them to place some sort of or create some sort of interaction or fictitious interaction between people, like in groups or in forums. Some of them do it intentionally to placing some biased opinions or creating a controversy. So there are different motivations, but these groups or these sort of peoples are so organized these days that they work as marketing companies, but they make it into a group of marketing companies that help each other out by using or leveraging the ghost accounts, and they involved outside help to do it for them, and they're hiring all the time. And then there are other platforms that are serious platforms, which are basically collecting information or asking for opinions from genuine experts or professionals or people who they feel that are real people and they want real opinion. So they pay a lot of money to, to write for them, to interact in the forum more, participate in ranking, rating products and services. So there is like opinionoutpost.com, which you don't know. These guys pay a lot of money, but they want to make sure that you qualify or they know a little bit more about you. Usertesting.com, survey junkies, and things of this sort. So these are their web performing testing, write reviews, and so on. So these are some of the examples. Another is the answering question companies, where you could just get paid for the number of queries you answer, questions you answer, or for you to collect certain type of research papers, and they pay you accordingly. Mobile expressions, inbox dollars, and so on. So these are some other opportunities that are for freelance research specialists that like to make money on their own schedules, or they can do it as a side business. Virtual platform typically outsourced research. So outsourced research, like as on Upwork or as a virtual assistant, these days involves these type of services. Remember, we talked about a generalist versus a knowledge area that you want to get involved in as a researcher. So if you're a generalist, the type of work that you can get immediately are leads generation. They pay you by the leads you collect, or they pay you by hours, just depends. It varies between $50 to $25 an hour, or depending on the number of leads they pay you. Data mining, which means that whatever data is they would want you to collect more of it and organize it in a certain way for them. So it could be thousands of data tables, or it could be a data relationship you have to create. You have to know in data mining certain softwares that you can use, or the Excel sheet that you are using, you should have a full command on that. Data verifications, like information verifications, could be an assignment given to you. Website content scraping, it uses a certain type of software these days we call bots, that are sent out to different websites and collects information like email addresses, phone numbers, basically, or any type of information that you put in the parameter. And basically that software, when you hit go button, let's say, it'll just send those little, in the same way the Google search uses bots or robots or crawlers. These softwares do data scraping, which means their only function is to go out there, collect specific information of matching those words by getting connected to the domain names, okay, and then crawl through the entire sitemap and collect that information. So website content scraping, once those information are collected, you have to organize it, clean it up. Sometimes you have to do a little bit more, but we don't have to discuss. Contact list collections, product pricing is important. You have to look at the competitor all the time for a business who has offered you let's say a research work to do compare competitors pricing, so that the price keeps changing, like even 1 cent, 2 cents, or 5 cents, so that it keeps coming up as the less priced compared to your competitor, and that way it stays up in the list and so on. So that is product pricing. Product selection, a lot of companies are doing drop shipping these days, where they are always looking for products that sell a lot more, or more popular products, or new products, innovative products that are coming up, especially from China market and elsewhere. So product selection is important, and when like they want to hire us for product pricing and for product selection, and we find it very difficult because of human resource involved and the money that we have to spend, pay them hourly at a very high rate. So it is the kind of market which is pretty much dominated by outsourced help. But there are a lot of people that are looking for quality of service. They're looking for people who know the language and so on. So there are preferences, and those people who are out there offering product selection or product pricing services that is labor intensive, and they are in United States or Canada or somewhere in Europe, can demand higher price, and they certainly will get that price. It just depends on the client and of course their inclination in hiring the type of people to do this research work. E-commerce products, description writing, images collection, uploading. There is plagiarism checking also. There is content writers looking for information and so on. So these are the type of outsourced platform that can be tapped. And this ones in particular that I'm referring to or listed here are coming from, doing a lot of research from our end to find the typical sort of generalized outsourced work that you can find at any given time, any time of the day. And this is why we are, sort of mentioning all these, is because we know for a fact that these work or this kind of services are out there, and there people are always looking, and there is not enough people to deliver, this type of research. So it is a matter of choice, and again, for research purposes, it could be another opportunity. Online research jobs, these are the websites that are hiring for online research. Crunchboard, Pro Bloggers, Flex Jobs, and all of these. This section especially is talking about opportunities for independent research specialists. That is why we are going through these slides. This is one chart which is a very important one, and it gives you a snapshot in a brief summarized that talks about the opportunities for independent research specialists. So starting from the top, you could see that an independent research specialist can be a generalist, or it could be a subject expert. Both require a contract for research. One type of contract is on the specialized end, which is for expert research. So it could involve online market research, SEO and online marketing, online surveys and polls. Just online surveys and polls is one of the very important businesses, and more, you could say, prevailing in the market. And there are companies who have been doing online surveys ever since internet started. And especially in the past 20 years, so many big companies are formed just on collecting on or doing online services and polls. So this is another niche area, and it is an expertise that is acquired. You really have to have a knowledge of how to build the online survey questions and so on. Then new products research, clinical research, legal research, these are all specialized research. Now let's look at the generalist platform. If you are doing a contract work as a generalist, three blocks, three areas that you can separate the opportunities into. First is information aggregators, answering questions, and research paper collection. This is a lucrative business. Pretty much, everybody is, if it is not paying a lot of money, at least it is paying more money than Upwork. And the price would go anywhere but between $25 to $50 an hour, or per report, $50 or $100 that you can find online. And we call them information aggregators, answering questions and research paper collection. So if you look at all these references, you click on these, you would find these opportunities with the sites that are mentioned here. So this is very useful for you as a reference to go to these sites and find those opportunities. Second box says that it is outsourced platform, which we discuss inexpensive bids oriented projects like Upworks, People Per Hour, Elancer, Odesk, Outsourcely, Freelancer, Guru.com. Okay, and then there is another. The third box is social networks, which is advertised for. This is where you get opportunity to get hired for on contractual basis, either as temp or even eventually you might end up getting an employment as well. So these platforms are mentioned right here, including the social media groups and social media platforms. Craigslist is one of them, Angels List. But when we combine all three, when we combine these two together as a single platform for opportunities, we are talking about the type of research or the reporting or whatever these researches are named that fall under these two type of opportunities listed right here. And what do they say? It says leads generation, data mining, data verification, and all these are listed. Resume search and HR procurement card, virtual assistant, content writing. So these two platforms would serve or would actually lead to these type of opportunities for finding information based on the namings or the type of information under these headings. So this way we do finish up the opportunities parts. And
Navid,
yes,
I have a question.
Yes, please go ahead.
Do you know anybody who works with some of internet sites like Upwork? Do you know anybody?
Yes, I know.
So okay, I just look at the Upwork for internet research business persons.
Mm-hmm. Actually, Upwork, we do have people in North America, mostly from US, that ask us to perform some research work. We don't do it directly with Upwork. They do it with the Upwork, but they outsource some of that work to us, which in turn we extend that opportunity to our members. And if any of them are interested, they would, sort of do it with them. But we don't do it directly with those clients, let's say. So what happens is that we do get sort of, in a situation where there is some, I guess you could say that there is some sort of, how should I put it? There could be, situations where we are asked to do some expert research, especially on investigative side. So we do that, but we do it at a higher price because we do it as an association, so the cost goes up. And then there are disputes and there are some sort of disagreements between the members and those people who are working with us or giving these opportunities on our other platform, which if you are a member, you'll figure out what that is. But with that platform, we do not have the obligation to step in between, those that are having the disputes, like those two people or two parties, but we end up getting into that situation. So we understand the Upwork very well, and it is all indirectly related to the Upwork, where the Upwork contract is again dependent on the client that is working with those people. So whatever happens between the client and the people who are outsourcing it to our members, it comes to us indirectly, and then we get to know what type of problems we are encountering when it comes to research. So I can pretty much guide you through if you want me to share those experience. Apart from this class, I would be able to assist you there. Not an issue.
Okay,
So
thank you so
popular
much.
research areas in business. Okay, any questions so far?
Yes, I actually have 3 questions, Naveed.
Yes.
I see that you, 3 questions. The first one, 90 days, I think you wrote here, you typed in to take the exam. Why, that's the maximum? What if, I'm not sure I could do it within 90 days.
Then what happens is that you have to buy the exam voucher. That's $100 for for all 4 exams and 3 attempts for each of them. So you basically get 4 times 3 is 12 attempts for that. So and because we are using a third-party platform, there is a cost involved that we have to pay for every exam that is taken. So that's why we have the fee. It 90% of it goes to that platform. We are using a platform called Class Marker. I don't know if you know or not, but we got hacked not too long ago. All our question bank was pretty much compromised. So we had to rebuild the questions, and then we decided to use a third party, and not just once. This has happened more than a few times. Somehow our ISP that is holding our database, they're sort of putting it on us, and we are putting it on others, and so this thing was becoming really a problem for us. So we decided to use third party, which is guaranteeing the security of all our questions. So that's why there is a cost involved, and you have to buy the exam. So in any case, it's not like after 90 days you are not able to give exams. You can, but you have to buy a voucher.
Okay, but didn't you say the exam is being given in 3 parts or something like that? It's no longer being, that it's based on.
No. Okay, so let me explain it, and it's very easy to explain also. We have 4 modules in CIRS exam. Okay, so module 1 in networks and internet technology, research methods and online research, number 2, number 3 research, number 4 internet law and ethics. So for the 4 modules, you are going to give the exam individually for each module at a time. So if you want to give an exam for, let's say you're ready for the exam for internet technology or module 1, you would have 3 attempts to give that exam, which means if you don't pass in 3 attempts, your vouchers finish up. Like you don't get pass to attempt the the exam 4 time for module 1. Okay, but if you pass module 1, that's good for you, because it won't do anything for us. Like it won't help you in any other way, except that for you to finish up CIRS, you have to pass the other 3 exams as well. So for the second module, you will go through the same process. You have to pass the exam in 3 attempts. If you don't pass, you could just leave it there and don't worry about it. You can attempt the third one and the 4th one. So depending on however many you have passed, you would be able to buy the voucher for additional attempts by paying for it. So if you want to redo the entire exam of CIRS with all 4 modules, then you pay $100. If you want to give one exam only out of 4, or let's say out of 4 you weren't able to pass module 2, then you would pay $25 just to give module 2. You don't have to pay $100. So it just depends, like when you are in 90 days able to finish up or pass all of those exams, or any one of these exams you couldn't pass, you could always pay $25 after 3 attempts to get another 3 additional attempts.
But my point is that you do have to complete all 4 modules within the 90 days, right? That's what you're saying. Okay.
This is just for the voucher or the free exams that you will get.
Yes, I get it. I understand.
You can always buy exams. You can buy it for $25. It costs us about the same too. So you could just, buy it. I think it is $25. I know it is not more than 25 for one exam.
Well, I still have some questions. The booklets you already prepared, modules 1 and 2, are you going to be preparing booklets for modules, well, for the remainder of the course for modules 3 and 4
Yes.
that you will be?
Yes.
Okay.
So
Okay.
what you will get in module 5.0 is a book, and that book would have all these modules in it. Let me just share this. This is confidential, but I'm just sharing it. Like, let's suppose that this is a list of all the modules. I'm sorry, not all the modules now. I'm hungry, really hungry today for some reason. And my stomach is telling me that I got to stop. Anyway, so these are 1, 2, 3. How many booklets are these? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 booklets would make module 1. Okay, so we would be giving you all of these booklets as notes. Okay, all of these. Okay, and these notes are going to be the same as the ones that you will find in the book 5.0 of training guide. Okay, these notes are going to be brief, or you could say that these are the notes that you should be studying for the exam and nothing to do with the book. So when the entire book is published, you get hold of the whole book. You don't have to worry about the book. I would say that go through the booklets which I will provide to you. So on Monday, I would be able to give you all these booklets, okay, for module 2, which is about 60 to 70% of the course. And I've given you already this one, and no, I've given you at least 1 or 2 of them. I don't quite 2 of them. Anyway, all of these I will give it to you on Monday. And then these ones, which is to do with module 1, and this one, which has to do with module 3, will arrive before 25th. And the one that you're seeing at the bottom right now, we are having a bit of a confusion and a problem. This is what we are discussing these days. So this may be delayed a little bit, but it won't affect anything, because by the time we get to this portion, I would have the notes ready. So even though you may not get this on 25th or 22nd or 23rd, but this part of these booklets is what is causing the issue, because the legal structure or the laws in North America are discussed without regards to the, the other laws that sort of impact internationally. So there is this gentleman who is an attorney, who's an expert, and who's supposed to give us a go ahead and sort of audit the book, and he's having some problems and he is having some concerns. So this is why we might end up delaying this one. So this would eventually land in your email boxes eventually, but this would be the last leg, the last ones that you will get. Monday, all these, which will cover everything in module 2, and but before 25th, all of these module 1 and module 3 booklets you will get, and you will consider them as notes both for your exams, and also consider it as the important facts and important material which would be present in the main book, but you don't have to go through the main book, because the main book will have a lot more pages. So you will only read through these. This will become something that you can use for exams only, or for the important things that we covered. And by the way, before I forget, the notes that I make in the TXT files, the notepad files which I send you, those queries are very important. So please, I still have a couple that I need to send you. Those queries needs to be practiced. So before you can start attempting the questions in module 2. Anyway, I think we are done quite a bit.
I just had one more question. What about the workbook? I know you said not to, the long workbook that you said not to worry too much about, but will the number 5, the workbook 5, add to the workbook 4, or will it replace it? In other words, should we still keep workbook 4 or delete it once we get workbook 5?
I actually, you don't delete the workbook. I can't say for sure what to do with it right now. And it is a good question, but I don't have an answer for it right now.
Mhm.
Because once we get the 5.0, and after we get the 5.0, we should be able to review the changes and see if any of the questions in the original workbook that belongs to 4.0 needs to be retired, or more questions needs to be added to it. So you could say that the workbook will not be available for 5.0 right now. And when it will be available, I'll have to let you know. So for you to look it up or go through the workbook right now for the purpose of examination, I would recommend it. You might get overwhelmed, and I want you to pass your CIRS. So I don't recommend it. However, those are all good questions. Some of those questions would come in the exam, but supposing 20 or 30 exams are coming in the exam, and you are finding that there are 300 Q&As there for you. So, wouldn't that be difficult for you to follow? But you can keep it as a reference. But for now, don't use it for preparing for CIRS. If you want to pass the exam, just stick to the practice exams that I will give to you, and then try out the exam. If nothing works or something happens, and by that time, I'm sure we will know what is happening with 5.0 workbook, or where it's at, and when can we release that. So it's just so happens that you are, you joined us at the time when we are at the crossroads of transitioning from 4.0 to 5.0. So that being a dilemma, I won't really, be able to say anything about the workbook right now.
How many
Anything
questions
else?
are usually in the exam? About? How many questions? And how long do you have to complete each?
Okay, we will, Bonnie, if you don't mind, I think it's time for us to let everybody else go, and for me to go and have something to eat. And we'll talk about the exam, number of questions and the practice exam once we get done with this. But remember, I'm here to make sure that you pass the exam. I'll make it really easy for you.
Have a
Good
good day.
night to you.
Bye.
Have a
Good
good
night,
night.
Mancha.
Thank you.